This is analysis of Eli's butterfly. So one thing I really like to see Eli think about doing is making sure that he explodes out with his arms and his head, swinging them this way. That's going to allow him to change his trajectory from slightly off the blocks to further out off the blocks with more speed and power. So instead of going right down into the water, he's going to get additional distance and speed and power off of the blocks. Eli has good timing on his underwater kicks, and he comes up at just the right time. Eli does a pretty good job of pressing the tee and incorporating both of his kicks into the rhythm of a stroke. Additionally, we see when Eli takes a breath here, he does an excellent job of pressing the tee. He drops that chin down before his hands enter the water. And what we mean by pressing the tee is there's a natural tee that forms between his shoulders and his spine. Pressing the tee means that he's letting that chin lead his hands through the water, and the momentum of his upper body is forcing his hands through the early part of the catch of the stroke and allowing him to use considerably more power. Similarly, it also forces his hips back up, which allows him to stay higher in the water and swim with more efficiency. Eli does a very good job of taking short breaths in the beginning of the first 25. We want to make sure that he doesn't take more, or make sure that he has that breathing pattern. He doesn't take 3 consecutive breaths in a 50. He's doing a good job of staying low, keeping his eyes on the wall, and getting that head and hand straight back. One thing we want to really make sure that he does is use the appropriate amount of dolphin kicks off of the turn, and we don't want to see him come up and take a breath on the first stroke. This causes him to get very vertical, which exposes him to a lot of negative resistance, which impedes his forward momentum. We can see as Eli starts to get tired that he has a lot more knee bend in his kick, especially as he takes a breath. We want to make sure that we eliminate this knee bend here because it exposes our body to more resistance as well. It also drags our hips down in the water when we're trying to keep them high and swim on top of the water in our butterfly. Making these minor adjustments will really help him stay higher in the water and finish his butterfly races stronger. This is underwater analysis of Eli's butterfly. You can see Eli does a good job of keeping those kicks short and fast. However, we do see that he starts his breakout a little bit early. As a result, he gets caught with his hands at his side before he can really get his arms out and around. You can see that Eli's really thinking about trying to press his tee here. What we mean by that is there's a tee that forms between his shoulders and his spine, and he does a good job of making sure that he leads with his head, which forces his hands through the early part of this catch without him having to use his lats. Additionally, it forces his hips back up and keeps his body position higher on the water. This allows him to seesaw in a motion almost like this, which also prevents a very small face for negative resistance as he moves down the pool. We can see as Eli goes further and further down the pool, he continues his efficiency in the early part of this 25. We want to make sure we don't swing wide to the side on this turn, though. We want to come straight back. See how this elbow drops back? That's very good. And the other hand comes over his head. Excellent job. Make sure that we're using this dolphin kick well. He does so. You never want to take a breath on the first stroke. This is the first time that Eli really exposes himself to negative resistance. So we can see as he comes up for this first stroke how he forms a very vertical face with which he's presenting a lot of surface area to prevent his forward momentum and generating power from his hips. When he doesn't take a breath, we can see how much higher his body position is in the water. So taking a breath off the breakout really slows his momentum off the wall and prevents him from maintaining that maximum speed. He has good timing with his kick, and he limits his knee bend. We see a little bit of knee bend here, and we want to make sure that we eliminate this if possible. So we want to focus on kicking from our hips. Okay, this will prevent us from creating this vertical face that we're trying to move down the pool with all this resistance. Kicking from the hips is going to allow us to have more power, swim with more efficiency, and finish our races with more speed.